Have you ever made biscotti before? If not, you should really give it a try. Today's recipe is an anise almond biscotti. Whisk together in the bowl of a mixer 2.5 cups flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of anise seed, a teaspoon of coarse salt, 1.25 cups of granulated sugar. Yeah, I'm just whisking everything together right here in this bowl. I know, crazy, right? And you have biscotti and you think, oh, these have to be hard to make. Well, they're really not. In fact, they're some of the easiest cookies to make. To that, add nuts. This is 2 cups of toasted chopped almonds. Then you mix everything together on your mixer. I'm using the paddle attachment today. It's a pretty stiff dough that forms, so the whisk would be a little weak. It would probably bend your whisk. So mix together. And then you add eggs, one at a time, 3 large eggs. You're thinking, really, that's it? Yeah, that's it. Some recipes actually have butter. This recipe does not have butter, so it's even simpler than some. And it results in delicious, crispy, crunchy biscotti. That's it. Just keep beating it until it comes together into a dough. I have it on kind of a slowish speed because I don't want the flour flying all over the place, but once the flour gets a little bit more moistened, you can turn it up and then just keep beating it. You can see that it's sort of clumping together. It's not fully forming a dough, but you can do that once it's off the mixer too. As long as everything is fully sort of like moistened by the egg. So you can take it off. And then what you want to do is form this into 2 logs. I'm going to knead it just a second just to make sure it fully comes together before I do that. So it's really full of nuts, which might make it a little challenging to get it to come together in a dough. But don't worry, once it bakes up, because there's baking powder in it, it'll sort of puff up around the nuts. But you do want your pieces to be relatively even. It's kind of sticky because of the sugar, not from wetness, but from the sugar. So if your hands are getting sticky, you can dampen them with a little bit of water. The oven is set at 350 degrees. And you can shape these onto baking sheets. You really can do them 2 per baking sheet if you want to. I'm just going to do it 1 so that they have plenty of room to spread out. Needs to be about 13 by 2.5 by 3/4. About. You can see that that was super duper easy, right? Barely anything. Once you make it once, you'll realize that you can make this with any kind of flavor profile you want. You want to put pistachios and like candied orange zest in there, go ahead. Okay, now you want to brush these with some egg and then sprinkle with sanding sugar. You don't have to do this step. I like the goldenness that it brings and the sparkliness that the sanding sugar brings, so I do it, but you don't have to. You can use regular sugar if you want. And then just get these into the 350-degree oven and then bake them until they're firm. That'll take about 35 minutes. So when they come out of the oven, you want to let them sit around for about 40 minutes to be cool but not completely cold, and then you cut them. They're going to get baked again. Biscotti means twice cooked. You don't want them completely cold when you're cutting them. It's just a little bit easier if they're slightly warm. And use a serrated knife. They cut right through the nuts really easily. After you've removed your cookies from the oven, turn your oven to 300 degrees because the second baking happens at a lower temperature. You don't want any browning, you just want them to dry out. My mom always makes biscotti. She got this recipe from me, actually, from a chef I used to work with. And she used to make the biscotti all the time as gifts for everybody, and she would make huge batches of it and freeze it. Then what you do is you transfer it right back to the baking sheet you baked them on. You can put them on a clean piece of parchment. I'm not gonna because I don't want to waste it. Just line them up for their second trip to the oven. I just feel like biscotti, you know, they don't really look like much. You look at them and you're like, they're not going to be delicious. But a good one is extremely delicious. Very, very flavorful. Perfect for dipping in coffee. Okay, back into the oven, 300 degrees until they're dried out. That'll take about 30 minutes. They look exactly the same, right? They were just a little bit soft in the center, and now they're dry. Let's see, can you hear them crunch? Did you hear that? Oh, did you hear that? Yeah. Like really crunchy, dense, anisey, almondy, not too sweet biscotti. Give them a try.